Met with John last night. Came back from his sister's graduation, had a lot of good family time. We talked about that last week on Friday. He has to make a big decision for his life, and college football is in a different place than it was 5 years ago, 10 years ago, however we remember it. John will be the most sought-after player in the portal. I think he's going to be the best player in the country next year, and he informed us that he is, in fact, going to hit the portal.
There he is, Jake Dickert, the Washington State head coach. Excuse me. Welcome back into the SoonerScoop.com studios. George Stoya, Eddie Radosevich here. Welcome back to the SoonerScoop.com YouTube channel, and things are a-moving here on a Monday. Portal report time, and that was Jake Dickert kind of relaying news to the media up in Pullman on Monday afternoon. Just about an hour later, you got the news. John Mateer, he has entered the transfer portal, and that's where we'll start. Luke Baklenko, the Stanford offensive tackle, he actually did commit to Oklahoma today. So one kind of in the bag for Oklahoma, now two in the bag officially here for the transfer portal. But the big news, obviously, John Mateer enters his name into the transfer portal. And I guess we'll just turn it over to you, George. What can we know here over the next couple 24 hours as we move into, I would imagine, and we have reported, an aggressive pursuit of the Washington State signal caller?
Yeah, Oklahoma is trying to close this deal quickly. That's been the case from the start. We've talked about it on here a lot, that OU's kind of had a package ready to go for him, a very attractive package, over 7 figures for multiple years, because he does have 2 years left to play. So I think that what's going to happen here is OU's trying to get Mateer to get on campus here in the next day or so. We'll see. As always, these things are fluid, so you never really know. But OU definitely wants this to happen quickly. They want to get him in the boat so that they can start recruiting some of these other guys. We can get into some of the receiver names in a little bit, but certainly would help to have him in. And I think that it's pretty clear Oklahoma's the front runner for John Mateer. That's been the case now for a couple weeks, really since Ben Arbuckle joined staff. They hire his quarterbacks coach as well, who's coming on staff as an analyst. So it would make a lot of sense. Now, we all know how the transfer portal works. Nothing's done until it's done. He still needs to sign on the dotted line. Sure. What that contract looks like, we'll see. But schools like a Miami, I know have been rumored, and obviously Miami has some money. You saw what Cam Ward did this year for the Hurricanes. Wouldn't be a surprise if they try to get involved, and I think that Cam Ward is probably maybe recruiting John Mateer. Obviously, they were teammates. Mateer was his backup at Washington State in 2023, so it makes some sense. The other school that has kind of popped up as wanting to get involved, we'll see if they can, is Vanderbilt.
Sure.
Obviously, they're losing Diego Pavia, and they would like to get in the mix for him. We'll see. I don't see that happening, but you just never know in the transfer portal. And then, you have other teams that I have no idea if they'd get involved. Would an Ohio State want to try and get involved? Would an Oregon get teams that they have some young talent that they really like, that they've kind of said, hey, this is going to be the future. But we've seen how that's played out at other schools, right? Jackson Arnold at Oklahoma is one of them. Would they try to say, hey, well, let's just see what would happen if we give John Mateer a call?
Now, I would, with all that said, as much as George just shit on the idea of Oklahoma landing John Mateer, I will say it feels like this is progressing in the right direction for Oklahoma.
I just want to be cautious because you just never. The portal is one of those things that I never want to sit here and say this is going to happen.
Kind of sound like a little bit like a P word right now, and that doesn't mean positivity either, folks. What did John Mateer do at Washington State? Obviously, you look at the numbers. Threw for over 3,000 yards this season, 29 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, 826 yards on the ground, 15 touchdowns. I think that everybody is pretty familiar with John Mateer and what he would bring to this offense. How important is it to get him in the boat even as soon as Tuesday to start that trickle-down effect with some of these wide receivers that they're recruiting right now?
It'd be huge because you've got several guys coming on campus this week. They've got Giovanni Gibson in town right now from Arkansas Pine Bluff. I don't think he'll be in town tomorrow, but he's a guy that they really like, super productive. We'll get into him in a second. Jared Bradley from Boston College, also formerly at Texas Tech. And then Isaiah, I don't know how to say his last name.
Satanga is what we'll stick with right now.
Yes, coming from Arkansas this week as well. And I'm sure there'll be some other guys that we can get into a little bit later that maybe they're interested in that could become some guys. So, yeah, it'd be huge to get him in. You know, you saw Luke Baklenko get in the boat today, an offensive lineman. Is that a trickle effect of, you know, hearing the news this morning that Mateer is getting in the portal and it feels like it's going to be Oklahoma? Possibly. You know, you got Corey Robinson, the big offensive tackle from Georgia Tech, coming later this week. It'd be huge. And John Mateer, it sounds like, you know, we don't know him, but from talking to a bunch of people, has a great personality, very outgoing. You would think he would be a huge boost for Oklahoma recruiting-wise. And he's also just considered the best quarterback in the portal right now. And you land a guy like that, that's going to bring a lot of momentum to your recruiting. So it would be huge. And that's why Oklahoma wants to get this done. They know that they're maybe, I don't want to say behind in the portal right now, but they certainly need some momentum these next couple weeks before it officially closes. And landing somebody like John Mateer, showing that, hey, we were willing to pay him too, because they're going to have to pay him a lot of money to get him to come to Oklahoma, I think would say a lot to a lot of people.
It will be interesting here over the next week. Obviously, Oklahoma kind of went through that first wave of visitors coming in from the transfer portal over the weekend. The Baklenko kid from Stanford, obviously one of those. Derek Simmons, the Western Carolina offensive tackle, was in town as well. This week starts a whole new round, it seems like, of guys coming in. You mentioned Isaiah Satanga from Arkansas, one of the speedsters. I think you said a 10-1-100.
Yeah, crazy speed.
Jaron Bradley, the wide receiver from Boston College as well. This seems like this is a big week. And once you get the quarterback, if you were to get the quarterback in John Mateer, it would seem that you could start getting that bowl rolling down the hill.
Yeah, and it feels like Oklahoma's in a really good position with a lot of these guys. I know Giovanni Gibson, the kid from Pine Bluff, that, you know, maybe not a lot of people
Interesting
know about.
Numbers, though. You pointed it out. 6'3", 205, obviously a big-bodied wide receiver. You don't know a whole lot about him because he played his college ball last year at Arkansas Pine Bluff, but he had 70 receptions, 1,215 yards, 9 touchdowns. That's at least production that you didn't see from that position group this year.
Yeah, good size. I think 6'3", 205.
Sure.
So size that can play at this level, right? And that's kind of been a theme in their receiver recruiting. So he's somebody they feel good about. I know that you know, he had planned originally to visit OSU, Cincinnati, Mississippi State, and Virginia Tech. It feels like if Oklahoma really wants this kid, they could probably get him. So maybe he's somebody that you can get in here early in the week. Jared Bradley, you know, he wasn't productive this year for Boston College. I think he battled some injuries, but he started his career at Texas Tech, and people might remember him. He played under Emmett Jones at Texas Tech. He had a huge game against Oklahoma back in 2022. I want to say it was like 170 yards receiving, 2 touchdowns.
One of the final installments of Oklahoma in Lubbock.
He was really good in that game. So somebody that, again, another big body wide receiver. I think he's like 6'4", 220. So really big dude. And then Isaiah Satanga, I think he's kind of that replacement for a Brennan Thompson. Big, you know, speedster guy, home run ball type of player. Not the biggest dude. I think he's 5'11", but like I said, 100-meter dash. He also had some good numbers. I want to say like 400 yards receiving and a touchdown this year. So he's somewhat
for
productive.
Arkansas.
So, yes, for Arkansas, yeah. So those are the guys. A couple guys to keep an eye on. Cam Vaughn at Jacksonville State, wide receiver. He entered the portal later this afternoon. I've been told Oklahoma's in contact with him, so maybe he's somebody that they get involved with. And then Devontae Ross, super productive player for Troy this last year, first team all Sun Belt.
Kind of one of the big names that entered the transfer portal on Monday morning.
Oklahoma has also been in contact with him as well.
Isaiah Satanga, 37 receptions, 491 yards, and a touchdown last year for Arkansas. What can you tell us about the tight end position? Obviously, that's been a position of, I guess, many question marks, obviously. Certainly around here, Luke McGarry, the Tulsa tight end, announces his commitment to Houston on Monday night. Maybe a little bit of surprise. He was expected to come in for a visit this week. What can you tell us? They do have somebody on campus currently in Nebraska, tight end Nate Borkircher.
Yeah, kind of a surprise visit. You know, I put some notes about him in my story earlier this morning, just that, you know, OU's really interested in him, and it sounds like Nate's also very interested in Oklahoma, but we didn't know if there was going to be a visit. He visited Texas A&M this last weekend. I know Alabama is very interested in him as well. I don't know if he's visited Alabama or if he plans to, but he got into Norman this evening, literally right before we jumped onto this show, and he's going to be in town the next couple days. if there's some real interest there, feels like that would be a pretty good get for Oklahoma. You look at his numbers receiving wise, not great. I don't think he's much of a receiving tight end, much more of a blocking tight end. That's his strength. Started 6 games for Nebraska this year. 4-year guy. He's been at Nebraska now, and I think he has 1 year left, grad transfer. So he's somebody that could be kind of that veteran in that room. Could also do a lot of different things in terms of blocking and maybe being an H-back, which is what Ben Arbuckle likes to use in this offense. So it would make a lot of sense that he would fit it. He'd also be, a starter from day one probably for Oklahoma as a vet. So certainly a guy to watch over the next couple of days. Another name to watch, we'll see if Oklahoma can get in with him, is Jamari Johnson, the Louisville tight end. I know Oklahoma's very interested in him. They've talked to him a little bit. I haven't heard anything about maybe a visit. Oregon is the front runner for him right now, which you know how Oregon is. If Oregon wants a player, they're probably going to get him with the money they have. So and the success that they're having right now as a program. So we'll see. But that's kind of the other name that I've heard at tight end.
Very good. It's going to be interesting here over the this week, and especially here over the next 24 hours, 48 hours. It seems like with the John Mateer sweepstakes now officially open, with him entering his name into the transfer portal, all sights will be probably set on Mateer and possible arrival to Norman on Tuesday. That's one of those that you just kind of got to wait and see how this whole thing works, but certainly would be good news if they could get that thing moving in the right direction.
Yeah, it seems like, all things considered, Tuesday or Monday was a good day for Oklahoma so far. We'll see, what that pans out to be. Again, a lot of these guys, you feel like Oklahoma's in really good shape, that they have a chance to land him, and then they leave their visit or they don't make the visit, right? Luke McGarry, if you would have told me a week ago was going to commit to Houston, I wouldn't have believed you, right? That Reggie Virgil wasn't going to ever make it to campus for OU and was going to commit to Texas Tech, I wouldn't have believed you. So, just you have to keep your head on a swivel on this stuff. I will say in closing, I feel very good about John Mateer in Oklahoma. From everybody that we've talked to, at least on OU side, it certainly feels like there's a lot of confidence there. I know that they've put together that package that we talked about on the show a lot. Obviously, you have Ben Arbuckle on staff, and it sounds like he wants to play on a big stage, and no bigger than the SEC and at Oklahoma.
No doubt. Oklahoma did get a 2026 offensive lineman commitment on Monday afternoon from Will Conroy, 6'3", 275 interior offensive lineman, joining that 2026 class. We'll catch up with Josh on Tuesday to get his idea about just what Will Conroy will bring to the Oklahoma program. Obviously, 2026 kind of put on the back burner right now as we get things worked out in the transfer portal. On Monday evening, we did talk to some of the OU players as well. We'll kind of feature everything that they had to say, but we did talk to Deion Burks, and it was good to hear from him officially after his big announcement over the weekend that he will be returning to Oklahoma in 2025.
Yeah, it makes you think that maybe they also had a plan in place for him. I'm sure that, pitching him on a certain quarterback was maybe part of that, but yeah, huge to have him back. And you think about him in this Ben Arbuckle offense, we can get into it a little bit more tomorrow. You would think he could have a monster year if he can stay healthy. Obviously, John Mateer coming to town possibly would help with that as well. I forget, was it Kyle Williams, Ryan Williams? Who
Kyle
was it?
Williams,
Kyle
the
Williams,
wide receiver from Washington State.
Monster year.
Sure.
You would think Deion Burks could play a very similar role.
No doubt about it. And we also talked to Damonic Williams on Monday night, and you asked him about his kind of his status going into not only the bowl game on December 27th against Navy, but the future. Obviously, he has another year left, and it was right around this time last year that we were talking about Damonic Williams and how important of a get that was going to be. What did he have to say on Monday night?
Yeah, it sounds like he hasn't made a decision yet.
Okay.
He wants to make one by next week, so it should be coming soon. I know Oklahoma really wants to hold on to him. What's his price tag? I'm not sure.
Sure.
What's his draft grade that he's gotten? I would assume probably an early day 3 type of guy, maybe, or mid day 3 type of guy. I'm not sure. So I think Oklahoma, certainly on that defensive line, we saw how good they were this year. If you could get back a Damonic Williams, Grayson Halton, which we believe is coming back next year, Jaden Jackson, David Stone, that's a pretty good group that you've got heading into 2025. I know that they're looking at some experienced guys also at the defensive tackle room, so maybe in case Damonic Williams doesn't, or maybe you just add another guy. we'll see. But he's certainly somebody Oklahoma would like to keep, but it sounds like he hasn't made a decision quite yet.
All right, very good. This is going to be it for your transfer portal. You can read more on Damonic Williams as well as Deion Burks and the rest of the guys that talked to the media on Monday night as Oklahoma gets prepared for the Armed Forces Bowl coming up a week from Friday against Navy. $1 for 7 days right now for SoonerScoop.com, and this is probably it right now as far as like this is the time. If you're looking to join SoonerScoop.com, all you got to do is sign up for $1 to get 7 days free. The next 7 days is going to be filled with a bunch of stuff. And not to mention, both basketball teams headed out to Charlotte on Tuesday, Wednesday. Jenny Baranchek and the Oklahoma women play on Tuesday night against Michigan. And then on Wednesday night, the top 15 Oklahoma Sooners and Porter Moser going to be playing Michigan as well. And that's kind of a marquee game, top 25 type game in the Jordan Brand Classic coming up in Charlotte. So for George Stoya, I'm Eddie Radosevich. We'll see you right back here on the SoonerScoop.com YouTube channel.